What are the 5 love languages? By the end of this video, you're going to have 3 tips to do the 5 love languages better in your family, in your team, in your organization, wherever you are. I'm Jono White, founder and principal consultant of Clarity. We work with leaders around the world. And I just want to thank you for subscribing, following, liking, sharing our content. It helps us to help more leaders like you to become the very best leaders they can be. And so if you haven't done that yet, please do that now. Tick follow, tick subscribe, wherever you're watching or listening. And that really helps us out. So what are the 5 love languages? If you haven't come across the 5 love languages, it's a very famous book. It's something that I really enjoy using with teams, actually. It's not for every team, but for teams, I find it's a great way to just understand each other a bit better, particularly powerful for couples in relationships. That's probably where it's most powerful. And in families, very, very helpful. But across organizations, because it helps us understand what really connects with people. The 5 love languages is all about what cuts through. What cuts through, what really fills up a tank of a person. And so there are 5 different love languages. Let's go through them. Words of affirmation. This is my top love language. And when someone's love language or primary love language, you sort of will often have a couple that are higher up and then a couple that are okay, and sometimes 1 or 2 that are really low. So for me, words of affirmation is my highest, and you can do a quiz through the 5 love languages, which I believe is free online, and I'd highly recommend that. Words of affirmation is about experiencing love and having your love tank filled up through words of affirmation. It means that if you find out, say, your spouse, or if you find out someone in your team or organization, your girlfriend or boyfriend, that they are words of affirmation, then this is a great insight for you. Some things that you can do is focus on what you're speaking to them. It's going to have a bigger impact. Maybe you're very low on words of affirmation and you don't think too much about what you say. Knowing that a person in your team is words of affirmation means you need to be careful, especially careful with what you say to them. And it means that if you really want to cut through and let them know they're doing a great job, then look at writing handwritten letters. Look at writing an email, a really thoughtful email. When it comes to their birthday or an anniversary, write a long card. Words mean a lot to this person. So that's really powerful. Giving or receiving gifts. My wife Liz is very high on giving or receiving gifts. And giving or receiving gifts just means that someone really cares and has their tank filled up through gifts. Sometimes we can look at that and think it's a bit superficial, but it's not, because gift giving is such a life-giving thing. It's not just about a dollar amount as we know. It's about that really cliched saying, it's the thought that counts. Well, with a gift, it's about thoughtful gift giving. And so if someone on your team is gifts, it's about going, how can I invest and sow into them as an employee, or if it's for you in your relationship, thinking through, even if you're not a gifts person, how can you really give some thought to and creativity around gifts for anniversaries, birthdays, and then just because gifts. If you have someone in your life or in your team who's big on gifts, then make a note to be on the lookout for something you can give to them just because. It's going to be especially powerful for them. The third one is acts of service. So someone whose love language is acts of service is going to, once again, it can be receiving or giving acts of service, but it means that their love tank is filled when you do something for them, or they want to fill your love tank by doing something for you. It's actually this idea that, say your words of affirmation, and for you, you're like, yes, that's me. When someone writes a really meaningful, thoughtful message to you, or letter to you that's really deep and meaningful, for someone who's acts of service, they experience that same thing. When someone cooks a meal for them, when someone goes, you know what, when their spouse goes, you know what, while you were away, I surprised you by actually sprucing up the house a bit, or that's what acts of service means to someone. It's really powerful. Let's keep going. The fourth one. So now we're talking about quality time. So when someone's love language is quality time, it's not just quantity time, it's quality time. But it means that there's a priority on spending time with them. There's a priority on just being together. So you might be someone who's very task-based. You're not quality time at all. And if you are married to someone, you've got someone in your team, or someone in your organization who's high on quality time, it's about It's about saying, what does it look like for me to give them quality time so that they feel in our relationship, they do actually feel filled up and they feel cared for. In your relationship with your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, how are you, if they're quality time, how are you investing in quality time with them? Maybe you think they're just really annoyed that I don't spend time with them, but I swear we spend so much time together. Okay, but how much of it is quality time? Just being together, nothing else happening. And for some of us, that might be really taxing, but that might be a sacrifice that's a really good thing for you to do and a good sacrifice for you to make, because it helps that other person in your life feel very filled up and very loved. And so the fifth, what have we gone through? Words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, quality time, and the fifth is physical touch. And so physical touch, once you're aware of this as one of the 5 love languages, you'll start seeing it. There's people who, real huggers. They just, not in a weird way. There's probably some people who are weird huggers, but they're just people who just, if they care about someone or they care about you, a hand on your shoulder, hand on your arm. It's not weird. It's just how they connect. They're huggers. This is a hard one, isn't it? Because in the workplace in particular, you want to make sure you're being appropriate. And so, but put that to the side for a second and just know isn't there something powerful about physical touch? Isn't there something powerful, particularly in your relationship? So if you're married or maybe your kids are physical touch, maybe you have someone in your team or a friend who's physical touch. It's about realizing that, and then once you're aware of it, when you see them, you might not be a hugger, but when you see them, you might give them a hug, or you might make an effort to just be close to them. And so I think this is a really underrated one. I think if anything we've learnt over a season like COVID-19, through 2020 and 2021, that there's something about physical contact that's really powerful, full stop. For people, it's just a beautiful part of how we're made. And I would really encourage you that for you, with what, if there's people in your life, in your team, in your organization, if you do this, the 5 love languages and their physical touch, then think outside the box. What does it look like? If you're not a hugger, what does it look like for you to, to hug your kids more, if that's their love language in particular? And it's probably a good thing for all of us to be doing with the people that we're closest to. And so they're the 5 love languages. I hope that's helped you. If this has helped you get clear on anything in your family, in your leadership, then comment with the word clarity. And thank you once again for subscribing, following, liking, sharing. It helps us to help more leaders to become the very best they can be. And so if you haven't done that yet, please do that now. Click subscribe, follow, like, or share this post, share this video, share this podcast, so that more people can become the very best they can be. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you for allowing me to invest in you on your leadership journey, or with videos and podcasts like this, maybe just on your journey as a person. And I look forward to catching you next time. Cheers.